Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Annie and I have a 4-month-old baby called Bowie. Today's video is my breastfeeding journey up until this point really. I've got a long list of things that I want to discuss, things that I learned during pregnancy in the early days, now, problems that we faced, how we've overcome them. Those of you that follow me over on Instagram, you'll know that I'm quite passionate about breastfeeding. I talk about breastfeeding, I'm confident in breastfeeding, and that I've got plans to, in the future, go out and help other mums that want to breastfeed, and I'm always there to support mums. I'm not medically trained in breastfeeding, just want to put that out there. I did do a lot of research in breastfeeding when I did my degree. My dissertation was around breastfeeding, and through pregnancy and motherhood I've constantly researched, and yeah, I plan to go into supporting women in the future. Might be quite a long video, which is why I've got myself a cup of tea. Bowie has been asleep for 2 hours, so he's probably going to wake up, but I had to get all my jobs done first before I started this video. I also want to put out there, everyone is entitled to feed their baby how they want. I know people say fed is best. For me, what's best is what works for the family and what supports, you know, the mother's mental health. That's what I find to be the most important. So I'm not against formula feeding or anything like that. This video is purely about breastfeeding, my experiences, my journeys, and I'm just giving my honesty, I suppose. I'm giving my honesty in my journey, things that have helped me, and what we've come across. When I was pregnant, I looked into breastfeeding so much. Like I said, I'd already done a lot of research into it, but I used more social media. So I followed loads and loads of lactation specialists, and they constantly do questions on their stories, and I'd ask the most silliest questions, but it was for my own reassurance. I'd join in on Instagram lives and I'd watch them, and I'd just ask anything because that's what they're there for. They're there to advise you, they're there to help you. And yeah, that's kind of where I started my pregnancy. I'd heard about harvesting colostrum when I was quite early on in pregnancy, to be honest, and it was something that I just wanted to do. Harvesting colostrum has become quite a popular trend, I'd say, in the past few months, or really speaking to lactation specialists, you know, they've said that it's not always advised. It's more advised to those mothers with gestational diabetes, but because of COVID, because of everything going around, they've said go for it if you want to do it, it's up to you. So I started harvesting colostrum at 36 weeks, and I was perfectly aware that not everyone is able to do it. You might not get very much, and I think in the first few days I just about managed to fill a syringe, and I think I did it about twice a day. And then I don't know, I just kept doing it. I had nothing to do. It was like coming up to Christmas, I was watching Christmas movies, we were in lockdown, so I just got on and did it. And it's really good to practice hand expressing as well. It's something I've had to do lots since breastfeeding, to relieve engorgement if you don't want to put a pump on. It's less of a strain on your body, I'd say. It's a way of removing the milk without putting suction on and risking increasing your supply. So I learned how to do hand expressing, and coming up to Bowie being born, I collected in total 30 ml. So you collect them in 1 ml syringes, and I had 30 syringes. When I went to the hospital with Bowie, I didn't take my syringes, I just left them at home. I made everyone really clear that I'd got this colostrum at home. I was like, if I need it, my partner can get it, you know, I can bring it in, whatever the outcome. And it was like written down on my notes that I'd had 30 ml of colostrum, and everyone was actually really encouraging, saying, oh, that's great, you've managed to collect that much. And yeah, so when Bowie was born, I suffered horrendously with hyperemesis in my pregnancy, and when he was born I was probably the sickest I've been. I was throwing up, I couldn't see. I had a positive birth, although this doesn't make it sound positive. I think my birth is a positive experience, but my sickness was just heightened even more with everything going on. So Bowie was taken straight away from me because I had a fever, I had to have antibiotics, he had to have antibiotics. I was really disorientated and really sick, so I didn't get that skin on skin straight away, which I wanted, but there was no chance I could have it. I couldn't even see. I just remember having a sick bowl, looking at Alison Bowie and just being like, is he okay? And he was fine. So it wasn't that long, maybe like 15, 20 minutes later, he was put on me, and I said to them, can I ever go breastfeeding? They're like, yeah. And then when you have this baby and you think, oh my God, I've never, because you know, if you've never had a child, you've never breastfed before, you know what to do, but you don't know what to do physically. So I was like, oh my God. So I just kind of put him in a position, and I was like, is this right? Is this right? And he latched on straight away fine. And that was, you know, the first latch was fine. We went up to the ward, and I was constantly pressing that buzzer because I wanted to utilise the amount of support I could get in hospital. Yeah, that was all fine. I did the cross cradle position, and people just constantly kept coming in, checking, and they're like, you're fine, you're fine. I was like, well, I just want to make sure. And, you know, you don't really get the pain or those symptoms described with breastfeeding straight away. So breastfeeding was fine, and then the first night he cluster fed. It was just crazy. So I was obviously on my own. Alice had brought the syringes in by this point, and he was just, I didn't sleep at all. He was born at 4 AM, and the following night I literally got no sleep. Midwife's like, have you got your colostrum? I'm like, yes, I have. And they came in, they showed me how to give him the syringes. They gave him the syringes. I was also putting him at the breast as well. Oh, thought he's awake. So I was putting him at the breast to make sure that I was getting the colostrum to him. But he was just constant. It was tough. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this what breastfeeding is going to be like? Because I will never sleep a day in my life. I was overwhelmed with emotions. I was texting Alistair being like, he's awake, he's not slept. And poor Alistair at home, knackered as well. But the midwives were fantastic. They kept coming in, they kept giving him syringes. And I still have loads in my freezer, so we can't have given him that many. But you know, we went with his lead, and that night he was fine. So after that evening, he's not been the biggest cluster feeder. So that was intense first night. He's awake. Did you have a nice nap? Oh. Oh, that's a lovely face, Bo. Baby is fed. I'm back now. I can't remember what I was saying. Where was I? So we got discharged, and then because of COVID and seeing the midwives and stuff, I didn't get to see the midwife when I should have, because they called me and they're like, is he breastfeeding fine? I was like, yeah, we're quite happy, we seem fine. Then I think we went to see someone on day 3, and they weighed him, and he'd lost 12.8% of his birth weight, which it's expected that they lose. I think they can lose up to 10%, but he lost more than was expected. And I just got really upset. I thought, oh, you know, I'm not giving him enough milk. They checked his latch. They said his latch was fine. They could see I had enough milk. What they put it down to was when he got weighed at the time, because there was a massive towel underneath him, they don't actually think his weight was correct. We took a picture, well, Alice took the picture of him being weighed, which I really recommend everyone does. So Alice took the picture, and they could see he was on this massive towel, and they don't know if the towel was accounted for. It can happen, but they didn't understand why he had such a big weight loss. So from that way forward, we were then put on a feeding plan, and I was expressing and giving him syringes. So top up was basically, they said every time his mouth's open, feed him. So I just constantly fed. We had Netflix on, we had we went to Aldi and did a massive food shop on anything snacky I could grab. And I just constantly fed him. Then I topped him up with syringes, but it was the like 10 ml syringes. I was also giving him the colostrum from the freezer, and just constantly, and we were going back, I think it was every 2 days, and the weight loss was decreasing. He was putting weight on, and then I think it got to about 2 weeks and he dropped his weight again, and I just melted in the car to Wells. I couldn't believe it. I felt so hopeless. I felt like my body wasn't doing enough for me. He wasn't getting enough milk, and Al's was really reassuring. He knew how much I wanted to breastfeed. The midwives could tell how much I wanted to breastfeed and how much it meant to me, and that, you know, I understood everything. We just couldn't work out what was going on. So we carried on with the top-ups. No one really mentioned formula, and I didn't think about formula. I didn't buy formula because I knew if things got tough or I was in pain, I would just be like, just give him formula. And like I said before, I'm not against formula. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to breastfeed. So he's having milk off me and express milk. And eventually, I think about 3 weeks, he was way over his original birth weight, and he was thriving, feeding fine. And in those early days, we just continuously practiced a deep latch, and it's so, so important. I did suffer with some soreness, but I didn't get any cracked nipples, didn't get any bleeding, nothing like that. I just constantly practiced a deep latch. Every time he went on, I'd take him on, take him off, making sure, you know, his cheeks were full, it was nose to nipple, his chin was there first. I was practicing all of that to make sure that I didn't suffer with any pain, because I am awful with pain. I'm so sensitive, and if I had any pain, again, I am one of them people, first bit of pain, I'm like, that's enough, and I would have stopped. So yeah, the first month was tough with Bowie. I remember like the anxiety of going to the health visitor, the midwives, every other day. It was half an hour drive from our house. It was just the stress. It was dark nights, it was snowing, and then, you know, I was told I've got to set alarms, so I was having to wake him up every 2 hours, which was really hard. If he woke up and cried, I'd wake up, but if the alarm went off, I wouldn't wake up, and then I'd wake up panicking, thinking, oh my god, he's not going to put on weight, I'm not looking after him. I put a lot of pressure on myself. It was really tough. I'd express milk, then Al's would have to feed it to him, but it was always through syringes. He never had bottles at the start, and the pump that I used was the Hacker, which has got less of an intense suction, so it still stimulates your milk supply, but I use that over the electric pump because I know it can create an oversupply for you. I didn't want to have that worry. I didn't want to worry that I was going to get mastitis. I was engorged as it was. So when I fed him on one side, I'd put the Hacker on the other side, and that was why I used to collect my milk that I would feed him, because my milk supply was fine. It was just getting him to put the weight on. So once we'd got discharged off the feeding plan, he was putting on weight. Can you stop dropping your toy? There you go. Oh, he's done it again. Bowie, you little monkey. Let's attach it so you can't drop it, shall we? Yeah, the night feeds were hard. I used to have my headphones, I'd watch YouTube, I'd watch anything to keep me awake. Al's would get up with me, even though he could really change the baby, and he still does now, to be fair. I would have rice cakes by me. I'd just do anything to stay awake. And there were times where I fed him and I'd fall asleep and he'd fall asleep on me. And the panic when you wake up. Bed sharing was never something that I wanted to really do, because I get into quite a deep sleep, and I was worried about, you know, me rolling over and squashing him. But I'd be sat up sometimes feeding him and I'd fall asleep, and the panic. So I tried to do everything I could to keep myself awake. And then from 2 months onward, he kind of woke up twice for a feed. So I've always dream fed him. Well, I did a bedtime routine. So we always started the bedtime routine to put him down for 7. So he'd go down between 7, half 7. Then I used to dream feed him about 11 o'clock. And then he'd feed at 1. And then he'd feed at 4. Yeah, he used to feed every 3 hours at the start. Once I didn't have to wake him. And now at 4 months old, 4 months old? Yeah, you are. So now at 4 months old, I feed him every 3-4 hours. He can be a bit more snacky in the morning. He doesn't really have a full feed when he wakes up. And now he was sleeping through. But now we've hit the 4-month sleep regression. He was waking twice a night. It's gone back to once, about 3:30 now. So yeah, you get through it. It is hard, but everyone says with breastfeeding it gets easier, and it does get easier. Your confidence grows. You get to understand your baby's habits and what you're doing really. Whilst I'm still living at home, I have been giving Bowie a bottle. So this was part of his split feed. So when he has his bath about 6 o'clock, I will express about 5:30, and then the milk that I express he'll have in a bottle, and it is maybe a 3 ounce, 2 ounce bottle. It's only a short feed, just getting used to having a bottle, and he takes it really well. I was doing that from about, I say I was doing it properly every day from 14 weeks. And he's 19 weeks now. So yeah, so he's got used to a bottle. He has that most days, not every day. It's just depending on if we've been out, if there's someone around, and that gives me a chance to run his bath. It gives me a chance to sort out his pyjamas and all of that. When we move out at the end of this month, I most probably will cut the bottle out because Al's works away and then won't have someone to give him the bottle, and if it's just me and him, I might as well just feed him. But we'll try and encourage him to still have a bottle every now and then. So if I did have to leave him, I know he'll take the bottle. So as Bowie hit about 16 weeks old, so between 3 and 4 months, he started having nursing strikes, which have been quite tough. It's quite normal. I've spoken to lactation specialists. They say it's completely normal for these babies to go through fussy periods between 3 and 4 months, and that's exactly what he did. He comes onto the breast, he comes off the breast, he comes on the breast, comes off the breast, arches back, has a little whine, and then he'll feed. And then sometimes he doesn't want his feed. Sometimes I have to go out for the room if there's people in there, the television's on. We have to go in a dark room for him to feed. So he's been a bit fussy. He's getting back into a routine now. He did used to feed for 45 minutes, and I used to think, oh my goodness, am I just going to spend my day feeding? He now feeds between 5 and 8 minutes, and I panic that it's not enough, but it is. So yeah, he has quite short feeds now, but he'll feed every 3-4 hours. In the nights he has longer feeds, and that is his way of settling him, so it doesn't bother me. I do feed him to sleep. Yes, I do feed him to sleep in the evening. And I like doing that. I enjoy that. Al's did try give him a bottle for his bedtime feed, but I personally really missed feeding him to sleep, so we still do that. We still feed to sleep. And yeah, his feeding cues now are completely different because he doesn't kind of do the rooting anymore. He doesn't move his head side to side. He always has his hands in his mouth because he's discovered them, so that's not a feeding cue. He tends to start sucking his bottom lip. That can be a sign. Or he'll get a little bit agitated, won't you? But yeah, he still feeds absolutely fantastic. We love it, don't we? I'm hoping to breastfeed him as long as I can. It doesn't bother me, you know, if I end up breastfeeding him till he's 2 years old. Obviously it won't be as many feeds, it'll probably be like the 1 feed a day. And then, yeah, I think when I've been feeding him for 6 months, I'm going to look into doing my breastfeeding support training and then take it from there, see how I get on, do some voluntary work, help some other mothers, potentially build another platform on Instagram to try and advise others, share videos. What I would say, if you're looking to breastfeed or you're interested in breastfeeding, really educate yourself, do your research, ask the questions, read books. It's good to know what to expect. It's good to know the good sides and the bad sides of breastfeeding, what you can get, you know, mastitis, blocked ducts, if you do get that, what you can do, having written down contact numbers, the breastfeeding helpline, finding your lactation specialist that's local to you. But don't stress, you know, it's a skill that you're learning with your baby. Yeah, I hope that video has brought some interest to you or helped you out. If you needed any more information or reassured you, that's what I want to do. I want to reassure people, because that's one thing that I know that puts people off breastfeeding, is not knowing what to expect. Breastfeeding in public, do not worry about it. I breastfeed majority of the time in the car because of lockdown. I have breastfed in Marks and Spencer's before when he was 5 days old. We didn't have a clue what we were doing. We just winged it and it was fine. And I've breastfed outside. Just know your rights. Know that you can't be asked to leave for breastfeeding. And, you know, if anyone says anything, then they say something. It doesn't bother me at all now, and I honestly thought it would. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. Please share it if, you know, to other mums, new mums, if you think it might help them. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you.